Welcome to Water Talk with Paul the Waterman, brought to you by Water Pros. Paul the Waterman is Colorado's expert on all things related to the water we use and drink in our homes. Have you ever thought about where your water actually comes from? Is it safe to drink? Is it harmful to my health, my skin, my hair? Paul the Waterman knows water, and he has the answers. Haystack Help Radio proudly presents Water Talk. Now here's your host, Scott Watley, and owner of Water Pros, Paul the Waterman.
Old Ann and I, with throats burned dry and souls that cry for water, water, cool water, clear water, keep a moving and
welcome to Water Talk. We are glad you are with us. Hey, we are glad to be back here for 2026 with our good buddy Paul Dowding, better known as Paul the Waterman. It is Water Pros, 303-862-5554. And with that, we'll welcome the man who invented water, Paul Dowding. How are you?
Me and Al Gore.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you? Happy New Year.
Well, in reflection, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, everything going good?
Everything's going great. You know, it's sad. You know, the holidays, you know, you look forward to them getting here, and then when they're gone, it's kind of like everything is just that quick, right? You know,
right.
We're back to, you know, the holiday decorations are put away, and you got all that mess you got to deal with. So
I know. And then it's like I'm just now figuring out, okay, it's Friday.
Right.
I know what day of the week it is.
I know.
It is so messed up going through.
It is messed up. And then, you know, it's amazing. After you get all your Christmas decorations out and you put them up, then isn't it amazing how you try to put them away and you're like, I don't have room for all this stuff. Mm-hmm. How's that happen?
I know, for sure. Well, hey, we are here. If this is the first time you have found us here on 560 AM, my name is Scott Watley, host of Haystack Help Radio, and we're here every day, noon to 1 with Haystack Help Radio, and Fridays is our Water Talk show. If you ever have questions for Paul, and maybe you're listening in an environment, you can't call in this show, but you got questions about water, we've got our Flesh Law text line at 720-201-8585, and you can send us your questions for Paul, and we will get them answered. So, Paul, here's the real sad thing. We went from 25 to 26, and we still have very dangerous water.
It's very dangerous water. You know, a news story that broke I want to share with everybody. It's something that affects, I have friends that have multiple sclerosis, and there's an article that my stepmom is she's a teacher at a university in Miami, and so she's a doctorate in microbiology. And a common chemical exposed is linked to multiple sclerosis risk, and it's the forever chemical, PFAS. So PFAS, we have a video on waterpros.net that from YouTube that really goes in depth on PFAS, how it was created and how it harms us. So the original PFAS chemical, I don't know another way to explain it. Its molecule, its molecular structure is so long, and that's why they call it forever, because it doesn't break down. And they made it's water resistant, heat resistant, so it just lasts forever. Well, then the byproduct that they use for Teflon, to create Teflon, that byproduct is part of the forever chemical that then attaches to the fatty tissue of our body. Mm-hmm. So it's still PFA. PFO, PFA, and then we had Gen X.
Right.
Okay, so those are the forever part that when they get into the fatty tissues of our body, they stay. The body doesn't break it down; it just travels. And in the video that we have up on the website, I encourage people to take a look at. Scott, it talks about every single human being has PFAS in their system, and it measures to anywhere from 4 part per billion. If you have 4 part to 7 part per billion, then you're going to be susceptible to certain cancers, certain diseases. And so now we're at this article, and it's multiple sclerosis, a chronic, autoimmune disease affecting the central nervous system. And this new study focused on endocrine disrupting chemicals, specifically now this is going to be tough for me, polyfluoroalkyl substance and hydroxylated polychlorinated biphenyls. I'm butchering this
Sounds
word.
dangerous.
Yeah, okay. Better known as PFAS, forever chemicals. This is basically what is contributing, they believe, to multiple sclerosis. So MS. So this is something, that they took 1,800 individuals. This study was done in Sweden, including 907 people that were recently diagnosed with MS and similar ages, geographical location, and basically they were tested, and 24 PFAS compounds were present in the blood sample. So this is something that it's serious, and we're going to continue working with you to get this message out that forever chemicals is all over the environment. So this is the word we used is bioaccumulation, and so I don't think people really understand, Scott, what it means, bioaccumulation. So that means that it's all over the environment, it's everywhere, and that means it's in the grass, the plants. So we eat plants. It's in the animals. If we have it in the human body, that's in the animals that we eat. And so agricultural products that we eat, wild game, obviously, fish. We've done stories, right, where people, even in, the last show, I think we were together before the holidays, we were talking about the lakes in Minnesota that were contaminated with PFAS.
Right.
And then we had Chatfield, where they wanted to limit the fish
they're telling
consumption.
you to only eat so many servings of fish a month or a week. That's serious,
Right. So what, it's a common sense, this is a true statement. Whatever is contaminating, the earth, it contaminates us. We're not immune to it. And so, and it's not to sound crazy, but, we're part of this planet.
Right.
Literally from the biblical, when we were created, from sand, right? God, created and breathed life into us. So, to me, we really have we have an election season coming. We really need to get, talk to, people running for local and state offices and ask them what their plans are. We know that the EPA's allocated funds, but, where that money goes to. I mean, look at all the fraud that's happening in, Minnesota alone.
And everywhere.
Everywhere, right? So, a government, they allocate money for certain funding, but, clearly that money gets farmed to something else. Well, now we really need to hold, in my opinion, Scott, people accountable for the quality of our water, because water is everyday life. Now, you and I, I don't think we're going to live long enough to see, and I hope that's the case, but I'm afraid it's going to be to the point where water is going to be unsafe for human consumption, and they're going to have to, filtration systems are going to have to be a necessity, to the point where we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do with the exhausted water filters because of all the contamination. Because right now, point of use reverse osmosis will remove the forever chemicals. A whole house anion-based resin system will remove the forever chemicals. Activated carbon will remove forever chemicals. But we have pharmaceuticals, right? We have the microplastics. And so, everything starts with the free water test that we offer, because hard water can affect the filtration process and the effectiveness of those filter medias that we just mentioned. So when we talk about the amount of contamination that we have, and, you have an exhausted filter, what are we going to do with it? Because if we put it into the garbage and it goes right back to the dump, it's going to get right back into our water supply anyway.
Right.
And, I was at a home this week. It's outside of Castle Rock. I forget the Hamden. You know where the sports is, just down from the hospital, Sky Ridge.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And that exit there, there's that
Ridgegate.
Ridgegate. Okay. Ridgegate community. Thank you. He's got dirt, literally dirt building up in his toilets. And the bathroom toilet downstairs has got so much dirt build up. It's got like a oily film on the water, like a fuel on top of the water. You ever,
like a fuel spill. Yeah.
Yeah. You ever, reminds me when I was a kid, we used to do a lot of catfishing in the Rock River, and you have back then, some gas would drip out of the back of the motor, right? If you had a leak and the fuel line was loose, it's kind of like that look that would be in the water. Same thing, but so he's got a dual tank water softener because the water's really hard and he has iron content. But a water softener won't filter out the dirt, and so he's starting to see this dirt in the bottom of his toilet bowls. That could be turbidity, and turbidity, is floaty dirt, and it's something that we can handle. But because Douglas County is using so much water, and there's only so much water resources that they have, and there's, only the aquifers can really handle so much because of the growth, his water table clearly is getting low enough where the pump is sucking in that dirt.
Wow.
So,
and what can really be done?
Well, we can put in an ultra filter,
right?
And then filter it out. But it's just it shows me. We went downstairs, so he showed me. I went over and we do a check back. So he purchased a system from us. We installed it in September. We do a follow up, go out, test it, make sure everything's programmed. And he said, "Hey, you took a picture of dirt in the bottom of a toilet bowl." And I said, "Boy, that's turbidity. That's floaty dirt." So we checked. The holding tank of a toilet upstairs, main floor, and you could see it. And then so we went downstairs, and one that as used as often, the buildup inside. I'm telling you what, it was mud. I mean, it was really thick.
Wow.
And so he's going to scrub that off and monitor it. But we're probably going to have to add an ultra filter. But the bigger picture of this is that in ideal well water construction, when you dig a well and before you put your pump in, ideally what you want them to do is throw gravel down there and let gravel settle at the bottom, and so then you set your pump depth. So when the pump is pulling water, the theory is if there's any dirt or heavy sediment, it would get trapped in that gravel that you laid down. So that gravel would act like a barrier or filter, so to speak. But when you're getting that much dirt, that and the buildup and the turbidity, it can become unsafe to drink because now carcinogens and bacteria can be a part of that, right? And so that's an unhealthy thing. A water softener won't remove dirt; it'll remove the hardness and iron. I mean, he's got super soft water; the iron's not a problem anymore. Now he has the dirt that's an issue. So we can put in an ultra filter to fix that, but the bigger issue is that we're seeing real time the effects of Douglas County, using more water than what is available in these aquifers. And we had a customer off of Wolfensberger and Perry Park where I went to visit, and they're running out of water in his well, where he was running the sprinklers, and to the point now, Scott, that his well water quality has changed. And so, we adjust it but it's not as, the iron content is not as bad as it was before, and well water absolutely can change. But what that's telling me is that, the aquifer isn't filling up to the level where it was, where the water then would, run into that ferrous iron that was, contaminating the water supply. That the water table is lower, so he has hard water. The iron's not so bad, but you're running out of water. Why is that? Because they're just. Wow. Castle Rock is at 35% reusable water, and pretty soon they're going to be at 100%. So, back to all these issues.
Was he seeing anything through, like, he turns on the kitchen sink and seeing any of that dirt, or will he at some point?
He will at some point, and that's when I told him. I said, once the water turns cloudy, then that's where then I said it's not safe to drink. Once you see where the water is cloudy and it's not clear, that the turbidity's taken over, it's not safe to drink. And so they have a reverse osmosis like you do, but what's going to happen? That dirt's going to plug up that RO system, because it's just it's a nanofiltration filter. So we're seeing in real time. So we see stories that the forever chemicals. We know they can not only mess with your immune system, but they also can cause kidney cancer. I'm positive. That a lot of the cancers, the colon cancers that we have are, right. Especially young kids are from these forever chemicals. Then the pharmaceuticals. See, I think the pharmaceuticals are underreported for a reason, because that's going to really tell us that we're drinking somebody else's, laundry list of prescription medication.
Yeah.
That's why the EPA has this unregulated, list of contaminants for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Paul the Waterman is with us. It is Water Pros, 303-862-5554. Hey, call now for your free in-home water test, and Paul can get you drinking cool, clean water. We got to hit a quick break, and we'll be back with more right after this.
How much do you need to lower your monthly mortgage payment? $200, $300, $400 or more? As rates decline, take AIM, Affordable Interest Mortgage, 720-895-0500. Over 24 years of saving Coloradans money. Low rates, lower payments, less costs. What makes us different is we listen. As an independent mortgage broker, we shop the top lenders to save you the most. Affordable Interest Mortgage, 720-895-0500. Want to purchase your next home? You can't qualify unless you sell your current home? Let us show you how to get the down payment out of your current home, qualify for the new one, and then sell yours for the most. Affordable Interest Mortgage, 720-895-0500. So you want to buy a home. Let us show you loans that can save you money, low down payment, first-time home buyer specials, fixed rates in the 4s with buy-downs. Call for details, 720-895-0500, or apply now at aimortgage.net. That's Affordable Interest Mortgage, where it's all about you. Regulated by DORA and MLS 217147, Equal Credit Lender.
Give your family the quality of water they deserve. With our friends at Water Pros, you can have a whole house conditioner for only $36.95 installed, or a point-of-use reverse osmosis drinking water system for only $1,300 installed. Call Water Pros now, 303-862-5554. That's 303-862-5554, and tell them Scott sent you.
You're listening to 560 KLZ, your home station.
Welcome back to Water Talk. Hey, we are glad you are with us. You know what we just got to, when you think about all the serious health issues that we read about, my wife Victoria just had some surgery, and we're in the Parker Adventist Hospital for a few days, and talking to doctors there and the medical team there. I mean, all hospitals are full, with different things, but the flu's real bad right now. But these surgeons that we were dealing with that do general surgery of gallbladders, different things like that, and you think of kidney stones and all, you wonder if, like I say, our water could have that effect on why all these people are so sick with, if you just take gallbladders, kidney stones, things like that because of water.
I have to agree with you. But think of this. The other story I wanted to mention, there's a fungus going around in hospitals that's resistant to antibiotics.
Oh, really?
There's a fungus strain that's going around, and I can't help but think, is that because of the antibiotics that are in the drinking water, the antibiotics that, see, bioaccumulation is more than just the forever chemicals. One of the things, Scott, that people have to realize, medication doesn't dissolve. Mm-hmm. Did you know that they use forever chemicals in the medication, pharmaceutical medication manufacturing practices? So, because they want certain medications to have a long lifespan in the body. I didn't know that until recently. So, I recently found that out, and I was shocked that, yes, forever chemicals are used in certain medications. So people believe, falsely, that years ago, I remember having this customer. She was from Texas, and we were talking about water filtration, and she agreed. She mentioned that the contamination, there's contamination of water supply, but it's just so minute, so small, it doesn't matter. And I think that was the point. People weren't thinking of the bigger picture, where it's so small it doesn't matter. Who would have thought, Scott, that 1 part per billion or 4 part per trillion would be enough to affect everybody? Who would have thought that if I had 4 part to 7 part per billion of forever chemicals in my body, that's going to lead to, increase my risk of cancer? Who would have thought that, let me throw this at you. What about the liver and kidney cancers, and the pancreas is part of, the digestive process?
And I really do believe we're seeing more cancers. I don't know, man. I've had more friends in the 55 to 65 year range that have gotten all kinds of cancers lately.
But what if that's because of the water we drink? Beer. One of the things that I for the beer drinkers out there, forever chemicals, loaded with forever chemicals. So alcohol in moderation is something that, especially the holidays, everybody enjoys a cocktail. Well, do we stop and think, and this is the process. Are we really realizing if I consume this, what's my forever chemical intake? It's not, and it's not going to be on anybody's mind until we start getting the word out, until we get people in the EPA, to be honest with us. See, that the EPA, the current EPA took Gen X chemical off that list. And, so when you and I first started talking about this, it's going on 2 years now, right?
Oh, easy. Yeah.
Easy, yeah. Gen X was part of it. And so, when I was naive enough, Scott, to think that Gen X was because it was, created in, my Gen Xer, my generation, right? I'm 56 years old. So I think, are we Gen Xers, or you still, are you, and then there's nothing for baby boomers, right? So anyway.
Yeah, I'm a baby boomer.
You're a baby? Are you really?
Yeah.
I didn't think you were that old.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry. But anyway, not to be age discrimination here. That's an issue. So the EPA takes Gen X off the list. So you know what that means? That means that you can go ahead and you can produce any kind of water repellent, water resistant repellent, fabric, clothing with Gen X chemicals, and the EPA is not having any kind of restriction. However, the other pharmaceuticals that are made with the forever chemicals, that's a different story. And so the laundry list of unregulated contaminants is a concern for me, because they're hiding what's really going on with their water supply. Now, wouldn't you agree, on a side note, wouldn't you agree that there for a while doctors were prescribing anything and everything they could because they got a spiff from the pharmaceutical company?
Oh, yeah, that's probably something if we really knew the truth about it. Prescription drugs, yeah.
So things got overprescribed. So I just got done having a cancerous basal cell taken off my nose, and they wouldn't give me any killers for it. The right word, pain medicine, because of the fact that everything they're saying is overprescribed. But I think part of it too, and that was painful, I will say that. But part of it is because of the antibiotic resistant, bacteria and funguses now that are out there. And so common sense, which isn't so common anymore, has to tell you, why is that? And it's because, it's clearly all over in the environment, and we're basically recycling medication. Every glass of water, if you don't have a filtration system, you're drinking some cocktail of pharmaceutical, contamination. And because the body, once you take a medication and you expel that medication, it's metabolized. And then the other thing to think about, thanks to, our friend Mark, who educated this on this is something that I just use good old-fashioned common sense to say, the human waste has contamination. And then Mark called our show and said, yeah, you're absolutely right. That's how we met him, right? And so Mark's been on several times, but the human waste is what are we going to do with the human waste with all these contaminants? So what we do is the human waste is separated, and then we give it to farms, and it's used for fertilizer. So all the gunk that's in the human waste that is not removed is in our crops. Right? It's in the hay fields, it's in the corn fields, it's in the sunflower, fields, and, soybeans. I mean, because this is something that, the agricultural part of our country is another form where we're getting, contamination from. And so this is, we're not even, hitting the tip of the iceberg of how bad this problem is. And so, water filtration should be as common as your furnace and hot water heater. It really should. You really need you really need to think about, when I get a glass of water, how's that going to affect my long term? And that's seriously, 'cause, your kidneys,
and that's what all you hear from medical people is hey, drink, 150 ounces of water a day. You know what I mean? So you're doing it to thinking you're flushing your system and getting toxins out, and then yet what are we putting in?
That's it. That's 1,000% it. So
now let me ask you this real quick. Have you walked through, we'll just call it a big box store of some type, to see what all type filters are out there? So here's what I wanted to put out is, and it's something better than nothing, probably. But I feel like there's probably so many people wasting good hard-earned money on garbage filters.
I had a lady. We bought a filter system online. It's solid carbon block filter, and I told her, because she lives by me. I said, well, your water hardness is about 15 grains per gallon, which is really hard water. I said, what are the operating parameters? So she gave me the website, and I went to it, and we looked at it together. And this is what really gets me about buying filters online. Clearly, in the specs, the warranty part of it, it can't be used for water that's harder than 7 grains per gallon. That affects, and she was at 15.
And nobody knows what their
Right.
hardness of the water is.
But when they're you're right. No one knows, but no one thinks about it. And when you're selling something online and someone calls to order, and you're telling them it's going to filter over 1 million gallons of water, that is irresponsible. That's untrue. And because water filters aren't plug and play, you have to know what your water quality is to see if it's going to meet the specs. So my point is, we put in a water softener. We told her, hey, keep the filter. I mean, if it says it's going to do what it's going to do, it'll work great, behind a water softener. So we hooked up a water softener for her, and so. But that's to answer your question. Yeah, you can go to the big box stores and you see all kinds. The big box stores sell water softening technology, Scott, that's over 35 years to 40 years old. The Kenmores, the GEs, the Rheem, it's all the same valve. It's all a 35-year-old rotary valve, and there's no new technology. Just Rheem has bought the rights to put their name on it. But it was the same thing that was sold as a GE unit.
Wow.
There's a A.O. Smith. A.O. Smith is now in the water treatment business. They bought a company called Hague, Hague, and you got people out there that have a Hague franchise that go to people's homes and $5,000-8,000 system, but that's the same technology that A.O. Smith sells in Lowe's for $800. No different. But that valve back in the day, the control valve in the internal parts it's one big mold. So you can't take the control head off and work on it. There's problems. Those tanks don't last long. So I mean, at a big box store, you're getting what you pay for.
Yep, absolutely. It is Paul the Waterman, 303-862-5554. And I'm telling you, everybody goes, where do y'all get all this information? I'm telling you, everything, and I say this sincerely and honestly, everything that we have shown you is well documented. Okay? And Paul, there's been national websites, there's been government websites on all this information. And when we come back from this break, we're going to get into some scientific type stuff for you here. But, it's all well documented, man.
We tell everybody they can find it for themselves.
Yep. You're listening to Haystack Help Radio and Water Talk. We'll be back with more right after this.
Hey, Dan, our jobs are pretty different. I'm a baseball announcer. You're an attorney and a talk show host.
Yeah, but we do have something in common.
Really? What's that?
Our favorite car dealer, Len Lyle Chevrolet.
Yeah, definitely not your typical dealership.
That's so true, Jack. No high-pressure sales tactics. They respect your time. And when you have two jobs, that's important.
I'd recommend Len Lyle Chevrolet to anyone. And with their low overhead, that means
lower prices. Yeah, we really do have something in common.
Len Lyle Chevrolet. Go east and pay the least. Chevy, find new roads.
Looking for top quality hunting, fishing, and camping gear without the high prices? Head to the Outdoorsman's Attic, Colorado's premier outdoor consignment store at 2650 West Hampden in Sheridan. You'll find wall-to-wall gear for upland bird hunting, waterfowl, ice fishing, and big game adventures, all at prices up to 50% off retail. Whether you're gearing up for your next hunt or cleaning out your closet, buy, sell, save at the Outdoorsman's Attic, where every trip feels like opening day. Come see Colorado's largest consignment store for hunting, fishing, and camping gear. It's the Outdoorsman's Attic, 2650 West Hampton in Sheridan, and tell them Scott sent you.
Turn a normal day into an adventure on an e-bike. Hi, I'm Randy Caranci, founder of E-Bike of Colorado. E-bikes are a fun way to ride around town. Just try it. Pedal assist technology flattens the steepest hills. We have 14 major brands to choose from, and our expert staff will find you the perfect bike. Come take a free test ride at E-Bike of Colorado in downtown Louisville next to the historic grain elevator. Open 7 days a week from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Learn more at ebikeofcolorado.com. Just try it.
Need new glasses fast? With Stack Optical's on-site lab, you'll get your prescription glasses in just 3 to 4 days. No long wait times. Hey, this is Scott Watley, and I've trusted my eye care to Allen Stack and Stack Optical for the last 15 years. Eye exams are only $69, and that should be a part of your physical checkups each year. For over 50 years, Denver has trusted this family-owned boutique eye care center for premium vision care, custom eyewear, and expert repairs. See the Stack Optical difference today. Call 303-321-1578. That's 303-321-1578 and tell them Scott sent you. Stack Optical. Since 1968, at Stack Optical, you'll see the difference.
You're listening to KLZ 560 AM, your home station.
All right, we are back. If you're just joining us, my name is Scott Watley, along with Paul the Waterman. It is Water Pros, 303-862-5554. As I mentioned in our first segment, call now for your free in-home water test. And let's take just your appointment since the first of the year. Any few appointments stand out that have shown you something new, or is running
the one we just talked about, with having the dirt and Douglas County, that Douglas County, everybody in Douglas County really needs to 100% think about water filtration, water treatment. Aurora Highlands, Aurora is going to be in the same Arapahoe County. Folks, when you see all the building, all the new subdivisions, the water resources haven't changed. Mm-hmm. I can promise you what they're thinking is that they're going to think, because this was on, they were talking to an engineer, somebody from the city of Denver. I'll never forget this. It was on 9 News, and he was talking about reusable water. Everybody's thinking about reusable water because it's easy, it's inexpensive in their mindset. We just reuse the same water. Well, it doesn't mean it's safe, doesn't mean they sat and thought about, let's think about this real quick. Reusable water, so we know for a fact, 1,000% fact, and anybody out there that says differently, you call me at 303-862-5554, and I'll debate this with you, because there's no way a municipality removes pharmaceuticals. And if they make a claim they do, they're not being truthful. No way it can happen. With the amount of water comes in and the contact time, they don't do it. Now, there's some municipalities that say they use reverse osmosis technology, but what do you think they're doing with that byproduct? The byproduct is the dirty water that comes through their filter system. Mm-hmm. They're injecting it right back into the aquifer. So the flow rates and the way they have to keep up with demand, and I just saw an article, I'll save it for next show, but I just started an article regarding that, because of flow rates and demand, there's some communities that are putting up, over 1.4 million gallons of water a day, 1.4 million gallons of water a day. So when you have 1.4 million gallons of water a day, and and I'm sure Denver probably does more than that, there's no way with the demand that you can run it through any kind of filtration process.
Right.
So if you're at a reusable water, what's happening is that we're going to have contaminants build up on a concentration level because it's recycled over and over and over again. So my question is, have they sat and looked and said, okay, this is what our concentration levels are now with these certain contaminants. What's going to happen, and where are we going to be at if, how many cycles can we reuse that before it gets to the point that, hey, this is not safe?
Right.
The PFAS. The EPA is going to delay PFAS, I think, they have to 2027 before they have to start implementing filtration for the PFAS. So that haven't happened yet. Do they have an idea? Are they engineering anything for that? Probably not. And I'm sure eventually that's going to get kicked down the road. They're not talking about pharmaceuticals, which is a big concern for me, but here's something else. We know there's a contaminant called 1,4-dioxin, and 1,4-dioxin has been on the unregulated contamination list for over 50 years. But they knew about it because it's been an industrial solvent since 1883. So 1,4-dioxin in some states it's been banned, but there's loopholes in their laws that allow it to still be used in washing detergent. It's used as a stabilizer in laundry soap. Mm-hmm. So 1,4-dioxin is in our water supply. They know it's there, but they're still keeping it an unregulated contaminant. And so, their contamination in our water supply that they know it's there, they're not telling us the truth because, again, I'm being repetitive, it's unregulated. But you and I talked to a gentleman that engineered water reservoirs, and he said every major over-the-counter medication tested positive.
Right.
So something else. Now, this is from the National Primary Drinking Water Regulations. You can find this on the web. It's epa.gov /groundwater and drinking water. And here is disinfection byproducts. Now, these are contaminants that are in our water because of how they disinfect it. So it's either with a chlorine disinfectant or a chloramine. So the first one is chloramines, and it's can irritate the eyes and nose and stomach and discomfort, and it because of an additive to control microbes in the water. So what that means, long story short, you ever get up in the middle of the night and get a glass of water?
Sure.
And then you lay back down and your stomach feels uneasy, especially at like a hotel.
Well, not since I have my
reverse osmosis.
But I know what you mean.
Right. So that's because of the chlorine content. So the other thing is chlorine dioxide. That's because it's used as a disinfectant. It's an additive to control microbes, and it can cause anemia in infants and young children and affect the nervous system. But the problem is, it's there for a reason. It's to not kill the bacteria, Scott, but we learned that it sterilizes the bacteria.
So when you see the word disinfectant, dealing with water, I wonder what the proportion would be, and maybe this would be too hard to figure out. Like, you got a gallon of water. What amount of stuff are they putting in that water to make that safe to drink?
It's a 10-to-1 ratio.
Wow.
It's so 1 gallon, a 10-to-1 ratio, 1 gallon of chlorine to 10 gallons of water is probably what it is, to be very candid with you. So it's a so a 10-to-1. So you figure how much there, and it's injecting it at the point of disbursement. So they're adding enough chemical disinfectant agent so the person at the very end of the line has the minimum requirement of chlorine, and chloramine. So it's a contact time. So chloramine doesn't dissipate like chlorine does. So if you have a chlorine, it'll dissipate, and that's where people had issues. The city of Inglewood had issues with bacteria contamination. And so now, here most everybody in the metro area uses a chloramine so that it doesn't dissipate. So that's where we went to folks' homes. We do a free water test, and we tested the hot water, and the chloramine content was higher out of the hot water than it was the cold water, because majority of folks have the hot water heater, 50-gallon, 75-gallon, hot water heater tank. That becomes an accumulator to the total chlorine content. So when you take a shower, you're breathing that in.
Mm-hmm. And man, people pay for these steam showers, and real fancy deals, and to sit there and to absorb and inhale all of it.
Well, think about this, folks. I was at folks have these multiple shower heads now, where they want water hitting them from all different direction. So your normal shower used to be about 1 gallon a minute, but now showers are ranging anywhere from 3 gallons a minute to close to 6 gallons a minute. That's a lot of water, but people want that comfort. They have multiple shower heads. And then you're talking about the steam, the steam shower. Absolutely. People have these individual units that are converting that to steam. Well, hot water, you can say a lot of folks have their hot water heaters in their tankless hot water heaters set above 120 degrees. They like it really hot, and so water is going to steam by itself. So those water droplets, water vapors with contaminants. So not only are you breathing in the forever chemicals, you're breathing in the total chlorine content, you're breathing in pharmaceuticals. So, water is not 100% water. Another thing on a side note that kind of concerns me that I'm not convinced, and I'm going to do more research, but are these, people think reverse osmosis drinking water units, shouldn't waste water. There's some systems out there that are advertising, it's a 1-to-1 ratio, 1 gallon of water to 1 gallon. Well, water's not 100% H2O, so it makes sense. You're going to have 1 gallon of wastewater because that's where all the bad stuff it goes, right?
Right.
So, and the other thing that concerns me is when people say that, there's ROs online that don't waste any water. Well, then it's not reverse osmosis. You're not filtering your water. Because water's not 100% H2O. So these contaminants I just mentioned, that's a chemical contaminant. It's a disinfectant. Trihalomethanes are in our water because of chlorine mixed with organics, and that's a cancer-causing agent. We have pharmaceuticals. We have PFAS in the water supply, so water's not 100%, H2O. Mm-hmm. So you need a reverse osmosis. You would think you would have some wastewater because where's the dirty water going to go?
Right. And, you look at the quality of our food, and we've mentioned this gentleman. He should pay us for this, Dr. Grant Bailey. Anyway, we've mentioned him a million times, but he's a cardiologist, and actually my cardiologist, South Denver Cardiology, and he was talking about all the microplastics, and we haven't talked about that word in a long time, but you wonder if this is we're one of the sickest nations in the world, because of the food we drink, eat, and the water we're drinking.
I think this. I think that the contamination of our water is real. I think it's something that's affecting our health. Absolutely. Do you remember years ago we used to think our skin didn't absorb things, but now the trend is they're thinking that medication should be given to us atopically instead of us taking the pill.
I've got doctors that do, some chiropractors and stuff that do some different remedies for people, and they have them rub lotion because it absorbs through. Yeah, absolutely.
So your skin is a big sponge. So when you're in that hot shower and your pores are opening up, you're absorbing all this. And so with my issue, with that basal cell carcinoma on my nose, the doctor told me it was on the left side because when you're driving, if you do a lot of driving, the left side, the sun comes. Yeah. Wow. So window.
Well, good for you. Just a PSA here. Good for you for getting it checked out.
Right.
I mean, so many times, men especially, we don't want to, pay attention to things.
My first thought is it was okay, an acne. But then it just, didn't go away. It's like, well, and I saw a commercial on Fox News that talked about you got a red, patch on your skin. They got this new technology that you can burn it off with a laser. And I said, well, I should get it checked out. And I'm glad I did.
Yeah, absolutely. It is Water Pros, 303-862-5554. Call now for your free in-home water test. And again, I know what you're thinking. Okay, yeah, it's free. But he's going to come out and browbeat me into buying something. That is not the case, and I promise you that's not the case. Will he educate you on water like he does here from week to week? Yes. But you know what? Paul the Waterman knows water like nobody else, and he's ready to help you. So 303-862-5554. Don't go anywhere. More Water Talk coming right back.
Here's why you need personal injury attorney Kevin Flesh on your side. He understands the way the jury thinks. In the context of a personal injury case, you've been hurt by someone else's negligence. The idea is that you're going to try to recover so that you can get back to where you were just prior to that incident occurring. What that really means from a jurist perspective is that you're going to be asking them to award you money. So when we talk about fairness, we're talking about 6 people that you don't know. Those 6 people view the evidence and make a unanimous decision that will decide what the fair value is. When you're the one who's hurt, you have a good idea of what you think it's worth. The question is, can you persuade those other individuals whom you don't know and were witnesses to believe that's what the case is worth? Kevin Flesh understands the way the jury thinks. Call now for a free consultation, 303-806-8886.
If you've already made your list of New Year's resolutions, why not make one for your pet? At Lone Tree Veterinary Medical Center, furry friend resolutions are called Pawsolutions, and their caring staff will help you check off every item. Whether your pet's list includes an exam appointment, a diagnostic test, a dental cleaning, a medical treatment or surgery, a nail trim, a bath and brush, a boarding reservation, or behavior training, Lone Tree Veterinary Medical Center can help with all of your pet's needs. And if food or pet care products are on your pet's list, you can shop in their lobby retail store or at their online store and have your items delivered directly to your home. Can't do a weekday visit? Your pet can visit them on Saturday at no additional cost. At Lone Tree Veterinary Medical Center, helping pets be healthy and happy companions is their number one goal. Why not get started on your pet's New Year's Pawsolutions list today? Just call 303-708-8050, that's 303-708-8050, or visit Lone Tree Vet online at lonetreevet.com. Lone Tree Veterinary Medical Center, it's the place where my pets go.
This is KLZ 560 AM, your home station.
Welcome back to Water Talk. If you're just joining us again, my name is Scott Watley, along with Paul the Waterman. Paul Dowding is the owner of Water Pros, and as I mentioned earlier, we're here every week at this time on Fridays, noon to 1, talking water. And Paul, you mentioned something too, talking to government officials about, and your local politicians. But my fear is with everything going on in the world locally, this is going to be something hard to pay attention to until we get into some kind of pandemic or something
there's
about
water. There's going to be a community that needs updated infrastructure that's going to have a contaminant that is going to bring this to light. It's just like the lead in the water in Flint, Michigan, because of old infrastructure. Well, there's going to be something that's going to occur that they're going to have to be truthful that, this is because of disinfectant byproducts, or this is because of usable water. You have to, a lot of companies, private companies, that, are operating, municipal water, plants. They may lead the way, and try to, update, infrastructure and filtration, but people are going to pay for it. It's not going to be free. So, you're talking about government subsidies for people to maybe help afford, water filtration systems. I do believe everybody deserves good water. And if you're going to give, tax breaks, they're not doing it anymore, but they were giving tax breaks to solar panels. Remember that?
Oh, sure.
So, maybe that's something that we can do. But if we start now and we start filtering the contaminant out of our water, and then that means that the water going down the drain is going to be free of those contaminants. Mm-hmm. And so eventually it's going to take a generation, Scott, but eventually that wastewater that's less the contaminant, will help the overall water infrastructure, let's say.
Right.
Plus, we have to have a legitimate, conversation on what to do with exhausted filtration media.
Now explain, again, we say a lot of terms. What does that mean?
So when you have a water filter, a whole house, an inline filter, or, an inline, water filtration media, it doesn't last forever. So what we have to do as an industry is to come up with a legitimate game plan and how we're going to handle exhausted water filtration media. If I just dump it back into the landfill, I'm doing no good, because everything in the landfill is going to leach back into our water supply. And then here's something else that we don't talk about anymore. What about all those radioactive drums of nuclear waste from nuclear plants that we were running in the 70s and 80s? Now they're going to want to bring those back, as clean energy. But, Scott, how many millions of barrels of nuclear waste are buried in the ground that is not going anywhere? Mm-hmm. But eventually those barrels will rust. Those steel barrels, don't last forever. I don't know how they were contained. I have no clue. But that's something else I'm concerned about. Is that radioactive waste getting into our groundwater supply? So uranium is a radioactive waste that is in water supply. We can fix that with an anion resin-based system, but uranium is there because of water decaying rock. And so millions of years of water sitting, on top of rock will decay that, and then that's where uranium is. Because let's face it, radioactive material is what created, our planet.
Right.
And so that's another factor. Before I forget, I want to mention something. This year, Water Pros has its own. We were working with other manufacturers, other suppliers, and so we're working direct, with the Cloud Corporation, and we have our own. The matrix is all our own. It's all Water Pros.
Oh, wow, cool.
So, if you go to waterpros.net, take a look at it, check it out. It's 100% us, and so which is good because then
American made.
This is made in Sandy, Utah. Sandy, Utah is where this is put together for us, and so we can keep our prices very competitive now because we're direct to the manufacturer. We don't have a lot of middlemen. We're not paying for a franchise or a dealership.
Yep.
So our quality with our filtration system is second to none. By rights got what I say by rights by market trend. That matrix should be we should sell that for $5,195 all day long. But we're going to keep that discount that we have, $1,500 off. And so we're doing the matrix. We'll continue to do that for, here in the near future. I'm at $36.95.
All right, $36.95. Now, again, this is our kicking off 2026. Probably, hopefully a lot of loyal listeners, but some people don't get to listen very much. Let's walk through. All right. So when you come to the house, you do a free water test. You're trying to see first how hard their water is.
So we do the basics. So now it's like going to the doctor. So when you go to the doctor's office and get a checkup, they do. Blood.
So you're going to be 10 minutes late,
right?
And then leave me in the room 10 minutes.
They make you wait 10 minutes, right? Yeah. So instead of a blood test, right, we do the water test. But also what we do, Scott, is we walk around the home and we do an inspection. We go to the bathroom and pull the lid off the holding tank of the toilet. You look inside there, and that tells you everything that's going on with your water. We do an inspection on the pipes. I went back to a house this week, and they have acidic water. And you can show them the signs of acidic water and what acidic water does. And if you have green stains in your toilet bowl or in your sink, bottom of your your bathroom sink or your kitchen sink, you see a green stain based on the finish, that's acidic water. If you got your drain, your drain stop, and if that's eroding, if that metal, the varnish or the finish is wearing away, that's because of acidic water. And acidic water is really harmful to copper pipes.
Right.
And based upon the age of your home, if it was built in the 80s or before, early 80s or before, you could have lead solder. So then it could be leaching lead in your drinking water. So we'll do the hardness test, we'll do an iron test, we'll do a total chlorine test, we'll do a total dissolved solid test, and then we do that physical inspection because the test will show us, and 9 times out of 10 people know that, I got iron in my water, or the smell of the chlorine is really high, and the hardness, they see the buildup and the dishes don't come clean. And then I tell folks to do that washcloth test, where, the washcloth test is something that, that's how, I showed you in Victoria what your water was doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Took a, clean washcloth and rinsed it in soft water, and there we go.
Mm-hmm. So, will most people need a water softener and an RO system? So I'm going
to be if you live, so we'll break it down this way. If you live in, majority of Adams County, Arapahoe County, and Douglas County will need a water softener. Absolutely.
Okay.
Now
you just met another friend of mine out close to DIA, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you were telling me about something I can't remember now.
High TDS.
High TDS.
High TDS.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which means
that the dissolved solids in this water are so high it's unsafe to drink. So you had iron content and hardness that we took out, but his point of use reverse osmosis is necessary for safe drinking water because their total dissolved solid level was well over 600. So
and that's high.
That's high. But with the support of clean, cool, soft water, that RO filter can last.
Mm-hmm.
So it's doing its job. So but that's part of our follow up, and that's what we do. We put the equipment in, and we'll come out and we'll do a follow up for you. Well water quality can change. So real quick, one thing I want to point out: if you have a cistern, if you have a home where you got water being pumped into a holding tank, and then it's being distributed to your home, if you have iron content, that's not going to be easy to fix. And if you don't need a cistern, I wouldn't do a cistern. But some people have a cistern in because they want that constant pressure. And, but see, these well companies really need to do a water quality test and see what, especially the iron content. Because, when iron oxidizes and it builds up inside that cistern, it just makes it difficult to treat. And rusty water is something that is, it's ruins everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt. And when you look at it, I mean, I do not cook. I've said that many times on this show, but when you look at how much water goes into cooking, and you've mentioned it a lot of times, man, why not have good, pure water?
Amen. Yeah, I mean, listen, folks. So something that we're going to beat the drum on this year continuously is think about the quality of your water, the forever chemicals, the disease we just MS can be contributed to the PFAS in our body. I got a book here on filtration media guide that we can go over. We're going to be talking about different filtration media, what it's used for, but what you need for it to function properly. Folks are on well water, Scott. If you don't have enough water pressure, then there's some of these systems you shouldn't be using because you don't have enough water pressure to properly backwash the system as needed. And so there's a lot of mistakes that are made. People don't ask the question, what's your well production?
Right. And any kind of water you can help with, whether it's in the municipalities or well water cisterns, whatever. You can do anything.
Correct.
Okay. 303-862-5554 is the number. And so $36.95 you mentioned a while ago is going to get you.
The Matrix. That's a municipal water filtration. So if you live in city water, the Matrix is ideal. Gets rid of the total chlorine contents, designed to get rid of the forever chemicals. It'll get rid of the hardness in the water, so it's our all-in-one. And then if you do a reverse osmosis with the Matrix, then it's only an extra $1,000. So you're looking at $46.95. Okay. That's the best price in town installed. Now, if there's a scenario where the plumbing is, if it's not a standard basic install, we may have to charge a little more, to make sure we can get it done, installed properly. But that includes a standard basic installation.
Right. Now, got 60 seconds. If they have a current system not by Water Pros, they still want you to come out. You'll still do a test on that.
Free test.
Okay.
We'll check the program.
You're not going to get some old clunkety thing running again. We're not doing that.
We're not doing that.
Yeah,
we're just. Yeah. I'll be more than happy to do a water test. I'll be more than happy to check out the the programming, make sure, and I'll give you an honest assessment of what's going on.
Yeah, clunkety thing. That's a Texas term.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Clunky. Paul the Waterman, thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.
We
for
appreciate
it.
Call Water Pros now, 303-862-5554. Check out waterpros.net as well. And once again, we're here every week at this time. If you ever got a question for Paul, call the show, 303-477-5600, or you can use our Flesh Law text line, 720-201-8585. Thanks for being with us today for Water Talk. Hope you have a great day and the rest of your weekend.
The views and opinions expressed on KLZ 560 are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect those of Crawford Broadcasting, the station, management, employees, associates, or advertisers. KLZ 560 is a Crawford Broadcasting God and Country station.